So, ja, also ihr seht, hier ist Bergfunk, ich habe mein Radio extra woanders hintragen, damit es empfangen kann, weil ich wollte nämlich die Bilder mal angucken. Also, zuerst probieren wir mal SD aus.
That they will have the full backing of the United States to go back to war, so certainly something to keep an eye on. Julie?
Certainly, and I think one of the other questions, and again, a lot of moving pieces to this, to your point, and closely watching the adherence over the coming days as well. What the cost is for Netanyahu himself, as we were hearing there, and we know the vote was 24-8. There were voices in the cabinet that were saying this is not the right deal and not the right time, and we clearly should continue to push for the sort of full extermination of Hamas. And obviously voices that were pushing for asking questions about what happens now for the remaining 65 hostages that aren't part of this deal. What has this, do we think, cost Netanyahu?
Well, there's no question that the Israeli Prime Minister is going to face some real political challenges ahead, and he may not have fought his toughest battle yet. The National Security Minister, 𝗱𝗲𝗄𝗃 Ben-Gvir, said that he will leave the government when this deal is approved. That has now happened, and so if his word is true, then expect him to leave the government. That will leave Netanyahu with just a two-seat majority in the Knesset, and then he has to contend with his finance minister, who was also opposed to this deal, but sought assurances from Netanyahu that Israel will return to the fight in Gaza once that first phase is complete. And so as we near the completion of that first phase, make no
So,
mistake,
jetzt probieren wir mein HD aus.
again, under significant political pressure from right-wing elements within his own government, and that will have, of course, a real-world impact on the fate of the remaining hostages and, of course, on the people of Gaza.
Yeah, but for now, full cabinet approval for this ceasefire hostage deal to take place, and we await what happens on Sunday. Jeremy Diamond, great to have you. Thank you so much for that. We'll be back after this. Stay with First Move.
I came to Japan in 2015. I traveled a lot around the Japanese countryside and really fell in love with the beauty of the farms. I was also very saddened. You can tell how much difficulty the countryside is having with the labor shortage. As they're getting older, you can see that they're having trouble with the burden.
Also SD funktioniert besser als Bild, finde ich.
I realize
Flüssiger.
the great potential for this type of off-road robotics technology to support farmers through automation on the farm. What we're building within 𝗱𝗲𝗄𝗃, we have Adam to support the labor, to automate transportation, to automate grass cutting, to automate pesticide spray. All the farmers have been very willing to accept.
It was really interesting.
Go solo, oh, I go solo. I make my way, oh, I make my way.
It's a European marketplace that's constantly evolving.
We're all in this together.
So, wow, look at
It
that.
sells.
What we're doing is world class.
You've all drawn classics. I'm a classic girl. I'm Anna Stewart. And I'm Claire Sebastian. Join us for Marketplace Europe.
Tonight on CNN.
I'm Richard Quest. I love travelling the world. Broaden the mind, open the heart, and I'm not done yet. It's time to embrace new adventures. We're going to be assaulted by sounds, visions. Find the fun. Does it symbolise anything?
It means it's like a dance.
And seize the moments in this world of wonder.
Tonight on CNN in association with Turkish Airlines.
Welcome back to First Move. Anxiety in Ottawa ahead of Donald Trump's inauguration next week. The US president-elect has been threatening a blanket tariff on Canadian imports of up to 25%. The nation is a US-friendly option for key resources like uranium, potash and critical minerals. It also happens, by the way, to provide more than half of US crude oil imports. And Canadian officials have warned that US energy costs could spike as a result of tariffs. My next guest just held a round of meetings in Washington, D.C. He says that Canada and the US are stronger when they work together. I'm pleased to say we're joined tonight by John Wilkinson, the Canadian Minister. For your time. I want to talk about your discussions in DC, talking to lawmakers, I think, about what Canada already offers and can offer perhaps in the future. Do you think they understand better why tariffs aren't the right solution?
Well, I think they do. I was talking about sort of two different things. The first was just making sure that the decision makers in Washington fully appreciated the impact of tariffs on their best friend and longtime ally, which is Canada, which are things like, the Midwestern refineries, which are set up for Canadian heavy crude, would, if a tariff was put on, see prices at the pump spike in the Midwest by up to 75 cents a gallon. You would see higher food prices as the result of the tariff on potash. You would see higher electricity prices because there would be higher tariff on hydroelectricity exports and uranium exports to the United States. So significant impacts on American consumers. And what I was saying was, rather than actually getting into some kind of a tit for tat with a country that is actually your best friend and neighbor, there are so many things we can do to achieve the objectives that the President articulated.